Hi, welcome to Reddit Confessions. Today's story isn't loud. There's no screaming, no cheating caught in the act, no yelling at a dinner table. But somehow, it still felt like the loudest betrayal I've ever lived through. She was buttering toast when she said it. I hope I find someone normal one day. Just that. No pause. No glance up from the bread. Just that sentence tossed into the air like crumbs she didn't care to clean up. And me? I just stood there holding my coffee, the steam brushing my face, burning a little more than usual. I didn't say a word. Not yet. Because in that moment, all I could think was, that wasn't meant to slip out, was it? See, I wasn't snooping. I wasn't prying. I wasn't even trying to fight. It was 8:07 a.m. On a Tuesday. The dog was asleep on the rug. The hallway light was still on from the night before. My shoes were by the door where she always complained they shouldn't be. And that sentence, it just hung there like a smoke alarm beep no one wanted to fix. So I asked, carefully like I always do, "What did you just say?" She looked up like I'd interrupted a podcast. Smiled. Not kindly. I said I hope I find someone normal one day. She repeated, slower this time, as if I were a child trying to read a difficult sentence aloud. No offense. No offense. I nodded, took a sip of coffee, and while my heart was kicking at my ribs like a trapped animal, my voice came out quieter than ever. Then you should start looking. I walked to the front door, held it open with one hand, and gestured. Not dramatic. Not theatrical. Just done. She stared at me, blinking, like a kid trying to figure out if their prank went too far. "You're serious?" she asked. I didn't answer. She grabbed her phone, her purse, didn't even bother with a jacket, and left. No apology. No anger. Just silence, like leaving was a minor errand. And then came the part one still haven't wrapped my head around. Exactly 10 minutes later, someone knocked. Not softly. Not like someone polite. It was sharp. Urgent. I assumed she forgot her keys. Or maybe came back to throw one more jab before disappearing for a few days. But when I opened the door, it wasn't her. It was her friend, Lila. The one she used to call the voice of reason. The one who always gave me strange glances when my wife wasn't looking. The one who once told me, "You're too soft for her, you know that." She wasn't smirking this time. Her eyes were wide. She looked pale, winded, like she'd just come from running or crying. Maybe both. Before I could say a word, she stepped inside, looked straight at me, and said, "She's not who you think she is. And I need to tell you something before it's too late." That's when I realized. This wasn't the end. It was just the trigger. She stepped in like the air behind her was on fire. I didn't say anything. I couldn't. I was still processing what had just happened 10 minutes ago. Clarissa, my wife of 5 years, had walked out after saying she hoped she'd find someone normal. It was so quiet when she left, I thought I'd dreamt the whole thing. But now here was Lila, her closest friend, standing in our hallway like she'd just seen a ghost. I closed the door slowly behind her. She stood stiffly in the middle of the living room, clutching her phone like it was the only thing tethering her to reality. "I wasn't supposed to come here," she said finally, her voice shaking. But I couldn't keep quiet anymore. Not after what she did. I raised my eyebrows, still unsure if this was some twisted part of the fallout I hadn't anticipated. "What who did?" I asked, though I already knew the answer. Lila looked at me like I was the only person left who didn't know the truth. "Clarissa," she whispered. "She wasn't going to just leave today. She planned this. She's been planning it for weeks. But something changed. Something spooked her. That's why she said what she said to you this morning. She wanted you to push her out first." The room suddenly felt too small. I sat down slowly on the edge of the couch. "What do you mean planned?" Lila walked over and dropped her phone into my hands. "Check the texts from last night. She doesn't know I took these screenshots." I didn't want to read them. I really didn't. But I did. There were messages between Clarissa and someone saved only as airplane departure J. They were discussing flights, hotel bookings, a final talk scheduled for this afternoon with me. And then I saw it. "Clarissa, he's too soft. He'll probably cry. I'll say something to trigger him, and he'll open the door himself. Jay, perfect. That way it's clean. He won't fight it. Clarissa, once I'm out, give it 15 and pull up." My fingers went numb. I looked at Lila, whose eyes were filled with guilt. She was going to leave with this guy? I asked, though again I already knew. Lila nodded. "His name is Jason. He works with us. She's been seeing him for 6 months. And I didn't say anything. I wanted to. But every time I tried, She made me feel like I was betraying her. Until last night. What happened last night? I asked. Lila hesitated. She left her phone unlocked in my car. I saw a video. My heart stopped. I wanted to tell her not to continue, that I didn't need the details. But I just stared. She was recording herself. With him. Laughing. Bragging. Saying how easy it would be to disappear and make you look like the crazy one. She even joked about keeping the house and saying you were emotionally unstable. I leaned forward, hands covering my face. I couldn't even cry. Not yet. I felt empty, like I was watching someone else's life burn down. But Lila wasn't finished. She doesn't know I saw it. And she doesn't know I came here. But there's more. Something's wrong with Jason. Really wrong. He's not just some random guy. He has a record. Stuff Clarissa either doesn't know or doesn't care about. She pulled up another file, a background check, DUI, assault charges, and something that looked like a sealed court order I couldn't even open. She's in danger, Emory, Lila whispered. And if she leaves with him today, it might not end the way she thinks. I looked up at her, my mouth dry. Why are you telling me all this now? Her face broke, a mix of shame and something deeper. Because I was supposed to go with them. It felt like a sick game show. Each sentence Lila spoke pulled a lever, dropping a new weight into my gut. She was supposed to go with them. With them. Like this was some grand getaway. And I was the fool left behind away from the porch. I stared at her in silence, the kind of silence that makes the air hum. She sat across from me, legs crossed, hands now shaking, not with drama, but with genuine regret, or at least it looked that way. I didn't know what to believe anymore. The people I trusted most were peeling off masks one by one, and I had no idea what was real beneath them. How long have you known? I finally asked. She looked down. For months. That answer felt like being slapped while I was already lying on the floor. For months? I repeated, my voice thinner than I wanted it to be. You knew my wife was cheating, and you still came to our house, ate at our table, took selfies with her in front of the fireplace I built? I didn't know how deep it was at first, she said quickly. I thought it was just an emotional thing, that it would fizzle out. Oh, you thought? I snapped, my voice cracking mid-sentence. Well, thank you for your professional instincts. I'm not defending her, she said, leaning forward. I know what she did is disgusting. But it's not just about cheating anymore. Jason's not safe. He's manipulating her. And if she really goes through with this, she'll drag you into something dark. I got up and started pacing. And now you care? You waited until today? Until she already left? She stood up too. I was scared, okay? I was scared she'd cut me off if I told you. And yeah, I was complicit. I was weak. I didn't know how to stop it. I laughed, a hollow, bitter laugh that didn't sound like it belonged to me. You know what's funny? I've been called weak my whole life. Soft. Emotional. But I was faithful. I was boringly, painfully faithful to someone who mocked me to her friends and made plans to vanish while I poured her coffee. I didn't come here to hurt you more, she whispered. Well, congratulations, I said. Mission failed. She didn't respond to that. Instead, she walked over to the table and placed a folded piece of paper down. What's that? Her checklist. I picked it up, unfolded it, and immediately felt the room tilt. It wasn't handwritten, it was printed, like a document she'd reviewed a dozen times. There were items bullet-pointed. Call Emory unstable during exit. Pack light. Keys, passport, ring if needed. Wait 15 minutes. Jason parks behind the complex. If he asks about money, say, I'll figure it out later. If things escalate, use the recording, do not engage. At the bottom, in bold italics, it said, smile. Make it look like freedom. I sat down again, gripping the paper like it might tear the moment I breathed. She recorded me? I asked. Lila nodded slowly. She's been baiting you for weeks, hoping to catch you reacting. It's all about appearances with her. If she can make it look like you pushed her out, she walks away clean. No guilt. No questions. My whole body felt foreign, like I was standing inside my own skin with nowhere to run. And then Lila added one last line that nearly broke me. She wanted to take the dog too. Said you were too emotionally unstable to care for a goldfish, let alone a living thing. That's when I finally cracked. I don't remember what I threw first. A book, maybe. I just remember the sound of it smacking the wall and falling flat on the floor. Lila flinched, but didn't run. Emory, she said carefully, listen to me. She's gone, but Jason isn't. He's coming here, today. She told him you'd be out or broken. But you're neither. You still have time to flip this around. I looked at her through glassy eyes, still struggling to keep my voice even. And what do you want from this? Redemption? She hesitated, then shook her head. No, I want protection. That made me pause. From what? She walked over, lifted her sleeve slightly, and revealed a dark bruise along her forearm. That, she said. Jason's not just dangerous to Clarissa. He's dangerous to everyone, including me. The bruise on Lila's arm pulled me out of whatever pity party I was spinning for myself. It was real, deep, purple, too precise to be accidental. And suddenly, all the pieces that felt like gossip, betrayal, and drama snapped into something colder. Something dangerous. He hit you? I asked, already knowing the answer, but needing to hear it. She didn't nod. She didn't speak. She just sat back down, her eyes drifting toward the front door like she was expecting it to burst open at any second. Why didn't you tell anyone? I asked, quieter this time. She gave a dry laugh. Because no one believes the friend of the pretty girl. I was the sidekick, remember? I made excuses for Clarissa, backed her up, told people you were clingy, when really, you were just trying to keep your marriage together. So when I finally saw through her, it was too late. I had already destroyed any credibility I had. I swallowed hard. The idea that she had knowingly kept this from me was still raw. But now, it was tangled up in something bigger. If Jason had put his hands on her, and if Clarissa really was running off with him, then this wasn't just a story about a cheating wife anymore. It was a ticking bomb. I stood up, walked to the window, pulled back the curtain. Everything outside looked normal. 2 parked cars, birds on the wire, the neighbor's sprinklers sputtering to life. But it all felt staged. Too quiet. Like a set built for a scene that hadn't started yet. And then I saw it. A black car pulled up across the street. It didn't park in front of any specific house. It just idled. Tinted windows. Engine still running. No movement. Is that him? I asked without turning. Lila joined me by the window. She didn't answer right away. But when she did, her voice was barely audible. That's his car. My palms began to sweat. So what does he do now? Wait for her. Come to the door? Lila stepped back. He'll come to the door. That was the plan. She said if you broke down, she wanted him to wrap up loose ends. Wrap up? I echoed, my stomach dropping. That's how she said it. Like you were a task, not a person. I didn't have a gun. I didn't even have pepper spray. Just a baseball bat in the closet that I hadn't touched since our failed couples softball league 2 years ago. I retrieved it anyway, the wood cold and unfamiliar in my hands. I looked ridiculous holding it. I felt even more ridiculous thinking I could do anything with it. But fear changes your definition of preparation. A knock came. Not the kind of knock someone friendly uses. It was deliberate, rhythmic, confident. Like whoever was on the other side expected to be let in. I didn't move. Lila whispered, "Don't open it." I wasn't planning on it, I said. But even as I spoke, I could feel my legs twitching toward the door like a reflex. The knock came again. Then a voice. Emory. Deep. Not angry. Friendly. That made it worse. Clarissa told me you might be home. Mind if I come in? He sounded like he was inviting himself to lunch, not stepping into the wreckage of a crumbling marriage. I said nothing. Neither did Lila. Another knock. Then silence. Then a click. The doorknob. I hadn't locked it. I lunged forward and twisted the deadbolt just as the knob began to turn. He jiggled it once, then twice. Emory. Still calm. But now I could hear the smile fading. Not a good time, I said through the door, my voice cracking in a way that made me instantly hate myself. You sure? He asked. Because I think it's the perfect time. Then footsteps. Not walking away, circling the house. Lila and I moved fast. We turned off lights. Closed the curtains. I grabbed my phone and called 911 with trembling fingers, whispering the address like I was reading it off a cue card. While we waited, the car outside remained. Jason was no longer visible. I didn't know if he was behind the house, crouched by a window, or still standing on the porch. I just knew he hadn't left. The dispatcher stayed on the line. Cops were coming. But I couldn't stop looking at the front door, half waiting for it to splinter inward. Then, Lila's phone buzzed. She glanced down, frowned. It's from Clarissa, she said. I peeked at the screen. Why aren't you picking up? Did you tell him anything? Another message popped in instantly. Jason said he's there. Tell him to let Jason in. He'll make this easy. I looked at Lila, and she looked at me, and something shifted. This wasn't just a betrayal. It was a setup. By the time the police cruiser rolled up, the black car across the street was gone. Just vanished like it had been a hallucination. I didn't hear an engine, didn't see a brake light. I only noticed the silence afterward, and the way my breath caught in my throat as I realized Jason had disappeared without leaving a trace. Two officers stepped out, both tall, both neutral-faced in that way cops learn to be. One of them tapped on the door, his partner standing a few feet back, hand resting casually on his belt. I unlocked it, heart thudding, and opened just enough to speak through the gap. "Emory Lennox?" the lead officer asked. His voice wasn't unkind, but it wasn't warm either. "That's me," I said. "I called. There was a man outside my house. He was trying to get in." "Description?" I gave them everything I could remember. Tall, buzz-cut, dark jacket, slow voice, calm tone, which somehow made it creepier. Lila added what she knew, Jason's name, where he worked, even his license plate, which she had memorized during some earlier, darker conversation Clarissa didn't know they'd had. "We'll look around," the officer nodded. "But no sign of forced entry. No damage. And you didn't see where he went?" "No," I said, gripping the bat tighter in my hand. That's when the second officer asked a question that made my stomach roll. "Has he been violent before?" Lila froze. I saw her eyes flick to me. "Not toward me," I said quietly, "but toward her." The officer turned toward Lila. "You're saying he hit you?" She hesitated for half a second, then pulled back her sleeve again and nodded. The officer raised an eyebrow. "Would you like to press charges?" Lila didn't answer right away. She looked conflicted. She looked like someone who had been emotionally pulled in both directions for far too long, toward loyalty and fear, toward love and survival. I don't know," she said. That's when everything shifted. The second officer's tone cooled. "Miss, if you're not pressing charges, and there's no trespassing, there's not much we can do. The man didn't enter the home. He didn't threaten you. He knocked and left." I blinked, stunned. "He tried to open the door. He jiggled the handle." "Trying a handle isn't illegal," the officer replied flatly. "If he broke in, or you have a restraining order, that's another story." I felt something rupture in my chest. Not physically, something quieter. Something like disbelief collapsing into bitterness. "So what do I do?" I asked. "Just wait for him to come back with a better plan?" The first officer gave a shrug that felt like it had been rehearsed for years. "Install cameras. Lock your doors. If he returns and escalates, call us again. But without more, we can't intervene." They left with two polite nods and a stack of protocols that wouldn't stop a man like Jason. Their car rolled off into the distance, leaving behind the kind of silence that doesn't comfort, the kind that confirms you're alone. Lila sat down again, pale and shaking. I stayed by the door longer, watching, waiting, trying to believe that this moment of false calm was anything but a prelude. My phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. A new message from an unknown number. "You just had to ruin it. Could have been easy." I showed it to Lila. She didn't flinch. "That's him," she said. "He's starting now. The part where he makes you look crazy." I turned the phone over in my hands, then asked the question I hadn't dared ask until that moment. What was she going to say when she left? What was her story? Lila took a long breath. She was going to say you were controlling, that you tracked her phone, accused her of things constantly, made her feel emotionally unsafe, that she stayed for years out of fear. I swallowed hard. "None of that's true." "I know," she said, "but she's been planting it for months. Little comments to friends, half-truths to coworkers. That's why she wanted you to react. Cry, beg, scream, anything she could twist into evidence." I sat down on the floor, back against the wall, suddenly unable to stand. My whole life, my name, my quiet reputation, my boring stability, was being disassembled by two people who operated like puppeteers, and I was just a prop. And the worst part? They were good at it. Lila crouched beside me, her voice softer now. "But we still have time. She doesn't know I flipped. Jason doesn't know I'm here. And that means we can change the ending." I looked at her, my voice hollow. "How?" She opened her bag and pulled out a flash drive. "I didn't just screenshot texts," she said. "I saved everything. Voice messages, GPS logs, videos." She synced her phone with my laptop once by accident. She never unsynced it. She held it out to me. "This is everything. Their plans. Their messages. His threats. Her manipulation. You want to fight back? Start here." I held the flash drive between my fingers like it might burn me. It was small, silver, and ordinary looking, the kind of thing you'd find at the bottom of a junk drawer. But somehow, it felt heavier than it should have, like it held not just files, but answers. Or maybe ammunition. Or maybe something worse. The truth, stripped raw and merciless. Lila watched me without blinking as I plugged it into my laptop. I hadn't even sat down. I just stood over the keyboard, hands slightly trembling, heart thudding like a countdown. The folder popped open immediately. Dozens of files, some labeled cryptically, mail 1, log_27, scrn_shot_3. Others more directly. J_car plan, exit script, May 27 call. My eyes scanned through the file names like I was flipping through the chapters of my own downfall. Start here, Lila said, pointing to a file titled voice memo_j. May 22nd. I clicked it. Clarissa's voice filled the speakers, casual and sharp, like she was planning brunch. He's so slow, it's almost sad. I can literally say anything, and he just nods. Like, I could tell him the sky's turning orange, and he'd ask if I wanted iced tea. Honestly, Jason, I think he'll just accept it. No fight. No mess. That's why this'll work. Then a deeper voice. Jason, what if he doesn't take the bait? He will, she replied, laughing. I'll say something insulting. Just enough to make him crack a little. And you know what's funny? He'll probably still apologize after. That's who he is. I froze. Lila shifted her weight next to me, but said nothing. I clicked the next one, a screen recording of a text thread. Jason had written, "Don't forget the ring. You leave that behind, and it looks clean. No closure is messy." Clarissa replied, "Already in the drawer. He'll find it after." Poetic, huh? The drawer. Our nightstand. My ring. The one she swore she'd never take off. I ran to the bedroom, yanked open the top drawer, and there it was, tucked inside a folded napkin like a discarded souvenir. I stood there staring at it, and for the first time all day, my throat tightened in a way that almost broke me. Not from rage, but from grief. That quiet kind. The one where your body realizes it's mourning something it hasn't fully processed yet. I went back to the living room. Lila had opened another file, GPS data. It was a map showing every time Clarissa had visited Jason's apartment, his gym, his office. Every time she told me she was at a late meeting, or book club, or just driving to clear her head. The map had more red dots than I could count. I felt my chest tighten, the lie unraveling in reverse. Weeks and months of deception clicking into place like a timeline I had been too blind to question. "Why are you giving me this?" I finally asked. "Why now?" Lila looked at me. Really looked at me, like she hadn't been sure I was ready until that moment. "Because you were the only decent part of her life, Emory," she said. "And she treated you like noise. Background. Like a placeholder until someone more interesting came along. I kept my mouth shut because I thought you'd figure it out, or that she'd change. But she didn't. She just got meaner. Smarter. And Jason," she shook her head. "He's not just a threat to her. He's a threat to you. And now he's spinning a story." I frowned. What kind of story? She clicked open a file, an email draft. It was written in Clarissa's voice, but it was saved, not sent. Almost like a preloaded nuke she was waiting to drop when the time came. "To whom it may concern, I want to be clear that I am leaving for my own safety. Emory has not been violent, but his moods have become erratic. He's isolated me from friends, tracked my phone, and questioned my every move. I fear what he'll do when I finally say I'm leaving." She hadn't even sent it yet, because she didn't have to. Not until I reacted. Not until I made her lie easier to believe. That was the plan. She wanted to turn my quiet into threat, my grief into guilt. And now, she was waiting for Jason to trigger it. But we had the draft, the texts, the recordings, proof of intent, proof of manipulation. Still, I felt no satisfaction, no vindication. I felt like a man standing in the ashes of a house he didn't know was on fire until it was already gone. "I want to send this to someone," I said. "Police, lawyer, anyone who'll listen." Lila nodded. "Good. But it has to be strategic. If we spook her, she'll spin it faster than we can prove anything. Jason's worse. He doesn't play defense. He gets dangerous when he loses control." I looked out the window again. The street was still empty. But now I didn't trust it. Now I understood that the attack wasn't physical. Not yet. It was narrative. One lie at a time. just believable enough to destroy me in court, in public, in every place that mattered. So what do we do? I asked. Lila pulled out her phone and opened her messages. We make the first move. Quietly, but effectively. What kind of move? She smiled for the first time, but it wasn't pleasant. We invite her to come home. It was almost surreal how calmly Lila typed the message. One minute we were watching audio files of my wife mocking me like I was a charity case she regretted adopting, and the next we were crafting a perfectly casual, emotionless text. Hey, can we talk? You forgot your charger and some paperwork. Not trying to fight. Just want closure. We sent it from my phone. The point wasn't to trap Clarissa, not physically anyway. It was to see if she would take the bait. If she'd show up thinking I was still playing my role, the emotionally fragile husband, desperate for clarity, too soft to fight back. Lila was right. If we went at this head-on, Clarissa would flip the narrative so fast my name would be smeared before I could hit send on an email. But if she came in under the illusion that I was still blind, still passive, still broken, we could catch her raw, unguarded, and, if we were lucky, recording herself with her own arrogance again. The reply came 20 minutes later. Fine. Be civil. I'll be there in 30 minutes. That was enough time to set up 2 voice recorders. One in the living room, hidden behind the bookshelf. The other in the kitchen, angled discreetly near the corner table where she always threw her keys. Lila also turned her phone on record and slid it into the couch cushion seam. I couldn't believe this was my life, that I was setting traps in my own home just to stay afloat. And still, I didn't want her to walk through that door. I wanted to erase the past 2 days. Rewind time to that stupid Tuesday morning when I offered her pancakes and she muttered, I hope I find someone normal one day, like I was just an obstacle in her day. When the knock came, my body locked up. She didn't ring the bell, didn't use her key. She knocked once, twice, polite, casual, like she was visiting an acquaintance. I opened the door slowly, the weight of every shattered belief pressing against my spine. Clarissa stood there like she hadn't dismantled our marriage piece by piece. Her hair was tied up, no makeup, yoga pants and a hoodie. She looked normal, disarmingly so, like the person I married. That was the most dangerous part of it. Hi, she said, eyes scanning the room past me. You alone? Yeah, I lied, stepping aside. She walked in and immediately headed for the kitchen, rummaging through drawers. So where's this paperwork? It's on the counter, I said. She grabbed it without looking at me. Great. And the charger? Also there. She stuffed everything into her bag, then leaned against the counter with a sigh. You really freaked Lila out, by the way. She stopped answering me. I kept my face blank. She needed space. Right? She said with a smirk, not believing it for a second. Anyway, if this is going to be a dramatic breakdown or one of those I just want closure speeches, let's just skip it. You already kicked me out. I didn't kick you out. You walked out. Same thing, Emory, she snapped. You think I wanted to do this like this? I wanted it clean. I wanted to leave on good terms. But you made it complicated. Again, like always. She was unraveling, just a little, and the recorder was picking up every word. I could feel Lila holding her breath behind the closed hallway door. I didn't move. I didn't argue. I just waited. You don't get it, Clarissa continued. I gave you years. Years of trying to make it work with someone who never changed. Who couldn't lead, couldn't take control, couldn't even raise his voice without apologizing afterward. You were predictable, weak, and I thought maybe that was safe, but it was exhausting. My jaw clenched, but I said nothing. And Jason? She added with a huff. He might be intense, but at least he isn't boring. That was it. That was the crack. I looked her dead in the eye and said, You know he showed up here, right? Tried to open the door. Talked through it like I was a stranger. She blinked. He what? You told him to come, I said flatly. You told him to wrap things up. That's what your message said. She paled, visibly. You're twisting things now, she muttered. He just wanted to make sure you were okay. You get emotional. He was looking out for me. By stalking the house and messaging threats. She tried to recover, fast. You're making this ugly. I came here to be civil. No, you came here thinking I was still the same guy you could manipulate with half a smile and a word like closure. But I'm not. Clarissa stepped forward. You're angry. I get it. You want someone to blame. Fine. Blame me. But don't pretend like you didn't let this happen. You ignored every sign. You kept your head down and hoped I'd fix myself. That's not love, Emory. That's weakness. I didn't reply. I didn't have to. Because that's when Lila stepped into the room, phone still recording. Clarissa froze. What is this? We've been recording since you walked in, Lila said calmly. We have your texts, your voicemails, your travel logs. We know everything. And now, so will the police. Clarissa looked at me, betrayal flashing across her face, like I had stabbed her. You let her do this? No, I said. I did this. Because I'm not weak. I'm not boring. And I'm not going to be erased from my own life. She started to speak, some mix of fury and panic, but Lila raised a hand. Don't bother. It's over. Clarissa turned, grabbed her bag, and stormed out. No final insult. No parting shot. Just footsteps, fast and hard, disappearing into the street. But I knew it wasn't over. Jason was still out there. And Clarissa wasn't done trying to rewrite the story. When the door slammed shut behind her, the silence that followed wasn't hollow this time. It was a beginning. Lila and I didn't speak for a long moment. The air felt heavier, but cleaner. The kind of stillness that comes after a storm, when you realize the house may be damaged, but it's still standing. I sat down on the couch, not because I was tired, but because for the first time in days, my legs weren't moving out of fear. I don't think she's coming back, Lila said softly. She won't need to, I replied. She already burned every bridge she had. And Jason? We handed everything. The recordings, the GPS data, the messages, the bruises, to the police the next day. Turns out, Clarissa didn't know half the things Jason was involved in. There was already an open investigation into harassment complaints filed by another woman. Our evidence tied him to more. They brought him in 2 days later. No dramatic arrest. No headlines. Just a quiet takedown of a man who thought control made him untouchable. Clarissa tried to flip the story. She called my parents, mutual friends, even posted a vague status about toxic men. But the receipts spoke louder than her damage control. I didn't need revenge. I had proof. And Lila? She moved out of her apartment and stayed in the guest room for a while. Not because we were a couple, but because we were survivors of the same fire. She apologized again. I believed her. Some friendships are born from mistakes. Others from choosing, finally, to do the right thing. It's strange how quickly life settles when the chaos is removed. I kept my house, kept my dog, and, eventually, kept my peace. I started running in the mornings. Not to escape anything, but to remind myself that my body still had rhythm. I started sketching again, badly, but sincerely. I even signed up for a cooking class, where no one knew my story. They just knew I made a good mushroom risotto and listened more than I spoke. I still think about that morning sometimes. The toast, the flickering light, that one sentence she threw like a blade. I hope I find someone normal one day. Funny thing is, I hope she does too. Someone normal. Someone who doesn't lie, manipulate, or vanish behind shadows and half-truths. Because I've finally realized something. Normal isn't what I needed. Honest was. If you've made it this far, thank you. This has been one of the hardest and strangest chapters of my life, but sharing it helped me find some closure I never got in person. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever uncovered something shocking? Something that changed your entire view of a person you thought you knew? Drop it in the comments below. Let's talk about it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story if it hit close to home. You're watching Reddit Confessions, where the truth might hurt, but it also heals.